Maharaja Shri Gurudev ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashadashmar Shila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashadashmar Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashadashmar Shila Bhakti Vidyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtarashadashmar Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Mahabhagavat Shila Gokshara Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Shila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitila Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadash Raghunath Shara Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल भद्रमंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय. सर्व अभिष्ट विराट गिरिराज महाराज की जय. श्री राधा कुंड श्याम कुंड यमुना मथस्य भक्त देवी की जय. नित्य विष्टोम विष्णुपाद श्री श्रीमद गौर गोविंद गोस्वामी महाराज की जय. तदीय शुभ आविर्भाव तिथि की जय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. Sorry, the kirtan's very loud in the background there. It's going to be over soon though. All right. So somebody, a friend of mine just sent me this link of a newly published book by Nimai Pandita Prabhu. He compiled it. Published by Tattva Vicara Publications about the life of Śrīla Gour Govinda Goswami Maharaj. So it's actually 2 books, and I haven't even looked at it at all. I have no idea what's in it. So I'm just gonna discover, just look around and read different parts. They're big books, I think, and so I won't be able to read. We'll just go through whatever you find interesting. If there's any parts that you want me to read, also you can write in the comments. We'll look at the table of contents now. I'm just going to read for like 40 minutes because I have some work to do. Let me change this background. Whatever. Okay. So here's the book. Always Embraced by Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa Alingita Vigraha. Volume 1. The Life and Times of Śrī Śrīmad Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj. This book, part 1, is from the years 1921 to 1974. A foreign element in this material world. So let's see. Pure devotee has all good. Okay, let's skip the introduction. And then, about Gadagiri, his family, his lineage, which is quite astonishing, but I'm going to skip that part also just because we are custodians of the Sri Sri Radha Gopal Jew Temple. Okay, let's read about his divine appearance, since today's his appearance day. Let's see, that's page 37. 37. Second. Wait a second. I guess the pages are different. Okay. Let's see, where's 37? Sorry, guys. Oh, man. Well, this program's trippy. Okay, that's close. There, his divine appearance. The birth of a Vaishnava is unlike that of a conditioned soul. He takes birth under the auspices of the Supreme Lord. He is not forced by the illusory energy to appear in this material world. In the Padma Puran, it is written, Nakarma bandhanam janma Vaishnavanam chavidyate Vishnur anucharatvam hi moksham ahur manishina. A Vaishnava does not take birth under the jurisdiction of karmic law. His birth and appearance are transcendental. The wise have declared that the servants of Vishnu are eternally engaged in the liberated service of the Lord, and are thus freed from the laws of material nature. In his Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur has written, Ataeva Vaishnavera Janma Mrityu Nai Sange Aisen Sange Jayen Tatai Dharma Karma Janma Vaishnavera Kabho Nahe Parma Purane Te Iha Vyakta Kori Kohe. The Padma Puran states, Vaishnavas do not undergo birth and death like ordinary persons. They appear and disappear from this world of their own accord. In this way, sometimes we have their association, and sometimes their association is withdrawn. The devotees are not subject to any worldly considerations of duty and karma. The divine appearance. His Divine Grace Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtatarashata Gour Govinda Maharaj made his appearance in the village of Jagannathpur in the district of Cuttack in the state of Orissa, India. Jagannathpur is approximately 85 kilometers from Bhubaneswar, the state capital, 55 kilometers from the city of Cuttack, and 15 kilometers from Gadaigiri. He was born on 2nd September 1929 at 7:30 a.m. This day fell 1 week after Janmashtami and 1 week prior to Radhashtami. His family were strict Vaishnavas. Having performed auspicious ceremonies, sanskars, according to the Vedic tradition, his parents begot their first son, whom they named Brajabandhu. At the time of his divine appearance, the kartals rang and the mridangas beat a thunderous sound, and his mother's family members in Gadaigiri combined in kirtan to joyfully celebrate the birth in the family of kirtaniyas. While Gadaigiri village echoed with the sound of the holy name, the infant Brajabandhu was lovingly held by his mother and sound asleep in Jagannathpur. Interesting. There's a note from the author here. Wait 1 second. God, this thing is so hard to navigate. Okay, there's an author note. This day, 2nd September, is also the same day which Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur took his birth in this world 90 years earlier. One astrologer was even noted as saying that Srila Gurudev was Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur come again. Okay. So Brajabandhu's father, Ishwar Manik, and his mother Pata Devi Giri were both born in families that had long since followed the Vaishnava tradition. His mother's family were the descendants of the famous Gopal Giri. Brajabandhu's mother. Pata Devi, the daughter of Bori Giri, was very devoted to Gopalju. From her early childhood, she would come to see Gopal every day. Every morning, she would sweep Gopal's temple, make garlands, and cook for him. Pata Devi married Ishwar Manik from the nearby village of Jagannathpur. Like the Giri family, Ishwar Manik earned his livelihood by selling bell metal. After her marriage, she lived 15 kilometers from Gadaigiri, so Pata Devi only managed to serve Gopal during festival times. Pata Devi was always quiet and absorbed in serving her husband and children, and every Saturday she would fast as an offering for their well-being. Each morning she would worship Lord Jagannath and recite verses from the Puranas and Bhagavad Gita. Every evening she chanted Hare Krishna, performed Tulsi Parikrama with her husband and son Brajbandhu. After Parikrama, she would recite verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Any beggar or sadhu that came to her house never went away empty-handed. Vaishnava tradition. The family members of Brajabandhu's father were also Vaishnavas. Those who accept Vaishnava initiation vow to refrain from eating flesh, fish, and eggs, from gambling, from all intoxication and illicit sex. Whatever, you got it. Initiated Vaishnavas also vow to chant the Hare Krishna mantra on beads a fixed number of times each day. Man mana bhav. During this period in time, India was still under British rule, but pressure was beginning to mount against the British with the aim of giving India complete independence. These events, however, had little effect on the Giri and the Manik families. Despite political upheaval, India was experiencing at this time the peace and solitude of day-to-day life in Gadaigiri and Jagannathpur. The Gadaigiri and Jagannathpur remained relatively untouched, as serving Krishna far outweighed any involvement in serving the mundane political system. The majority of the inhabitants of Gadaigiri were not interested in the fight for supremacy permeating Indian politics, or whether the British or the Indian nationalists were in charge. They were occupied with spiritual concerns, serving Krishna and Krishna bhajan. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna has stated, Man mana bhavamar bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer obeisances to me. Following Krishna's instructions, engaging in Krishna seva and bhajan were the main interests of the Giri and Manik families. Vedic Dharma. It is still prevalent in India to have one's children born at home. Our beloved Gurudev said, Śrīla Govinda Goswami said, I can remember from when I was very young that my grandfather, my father, and all my uncles had a shika, would put on Vaishnav tilak after bathing, and wore kantimala. They were all Vaishnavas and they were always chanting Hare Krishna. At home, his life revolves around serving the Supreme Lord. Both of his parents and all of their relatives were constantly engaged in serving the family deities. As devotees, the Manik family and the Giri family had strong faith in Lord Krishna's words in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. Every evening after Kirtan at the Sri Radha Gopal Ju temple, one of the Giri family members would read a chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Reading from the sacred scriptures was very much a part of their puja, or their daily worship. Thus, Brajabandhu Manik took his birth in an ideal Vaishnav environment. One second, let me just see everything's running, okay? Looks like it. Let me see. Hari Bol Shas Sharma. Hare Krishna. Okay, so Brajabandhu and the astrologer. Once, the renowned blind astrologer and mystic Nityananda Kadiratna from Denkanal came to Gadaigiri and stayed for 2 days. While he was in Gadaigiri, he met the young child Brajabandhu and his mother, who were staying at the house of his uncle. Pata Devi asked the astrologer about her son's future. The astrologer said to her, This boy is full of devotion. He is very intelligent. He will marry, obtain government service, and in his middle age, he will renounce family life and become a sadhu. He will obtain higher knowledge, and because of that, he will occupy an important place in the line of sadhus. He will build temples. He will make Gopal Ju's place bright. The astrologer then said, Krishna himself has sent this child from his eternal abode to preach his message and to deliver the fallen conditioned souls. Sorry. It's hard to navigate with this weird thing. Okay. Brajabandhu's spotless character. This is Fakir Charan Kanungo. I don't know who that is. I guess one of his contemporaries. Brajabandhu once told me that whenever he would become restless and start crying, his mother would simply put the Śrīmad Bhagavatam in his hands and he would stop crying. From a very young age, he would read this sacred book and become so absorbed in it that he would forget to take his meals. The family was too poor to afford candles or a lamp for reading, so in the evening he would sit close to the cooking fire and read. At night he would go to sleep clutching the Holy Scripture to his chest. He did not speak unnecessarily. He was always very sober, and mischief was not in his character. When the other children were mischievous, he would keep his distance. He never provoked, annoyed, or irritated anyone. He was always so honest and truthful that his older cousin, Dobani Devi, likened him to Maharaja Yudhishthir. She remembers holding him in her arms when he was a 1-year-old baby. This happened regularly, as his mother would always take him with her when she visited her family in Gadaigiri. From this early age, he developed a great faith in Gopalju, an attachment to him, and Gopalju was always present to protect him and take care of his dear devotee. Not an ordinary child. Brajabandhu's grandfather, Bodhi Bandhugiri, an acclaimed Kirtaniya and a great devotee of the Lord, taught Brajabandhu to count on his fingers by chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa. Recalling his childhood, Shishimar Gour Govinda Swami Maharaj said, "The first thing I could remember as a child were the songs of Śrīla Narottam Das Thakur, sung by my uncles from Gadaigiri. My uncles knew kirtan. They were great kirtaniyas." Young Brajabandhu never liked to wrestle or play rough games with his cousins. Once, his cousin brother attempted to force him to wrestle. However, Brajabandhu said, "I won't play. My legs and hands may break." On another occasion, his cousin brothers tried to entice Brajabandhu to steal guavas from the next-door villager's orchard. But he refused, saying, "You can tell our mother and she will go to our neighbor and ask for some guavas, but I will never steal them." His cousins did not agree and forced him to climb the tree. Brajabandhu stayed on the lowest branch while his cousins climbed to the higher branches to steal the guavas. When Brajabandhu's mother came out of the house, worried about her son, he said to her, "Mother, don't worry, I'm not climbing higher. I am here on the lowest branch." He would not steal the guavas, nor would he eat them. This was no ordinary child and no ordinary occurrence or birth. Bhajan Kirtan from a very young age. Brajabandhu's mother and father were very fond of studying and reading the scriptures. Srila Gurudev recalls, "I would regularly listen to Kṛṣṇa Katha from my parents. They would read from different Puranas, the Śrīmad Bhagavatam, the Mahabharata, etc. At such an early age, I received the opportunity. When I was young, I was singing, dancing, doing kirtan, and by the age of 11, I had heard all 12 cantos of the Śrīmad Bhagavatam 6 times. Jeez! I'm at the age of 32 and I haven't read it once. From about the age of 5, Brajabandhu began to travel about in the company of the stalwarts of Kirtan, his uncles Gopinath Giri and Jagannath Giri. They would set out from Gadaigiri, walking from village to village, performing Kirtan, singing the songs of the Vaishnavacharyas like Narottam Das Thakur. And little Brajabandhu would also sing, play kartals, and sometimes dance ecstatically in the Kirtan. Maybe we should skip some parts because I'll just read this. Okay, so the samskars. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami speaks about the samskars. In my childhood days, I had seen some of the samskars being performed. I do not know if my father had also done the samskars for me when I was very little, but when I grew up, all the samskars were performed for me. The Trudakarnam, Upanayanam, Karnaveda, ear piercing. I particularly remember that Karnaveda, the ear piercing samskar. It was performed at the time of the Upanayan when he gets the Brahmathad. Nowadays, it is not followed so much because of the influence of Kali. Now no one is following the Vedic rules and regulations. So that's the ear-piercing ceremony. Let's see, I'm going to skip these parts because there's so much to read. All the respectable ladies, his mother. He had natural affection, early school years, developing Krishna consciousness as a youth. The saint moved to Gadaigiri. Ashtaprahar Kirtan. That's interesting. I'm just skipping around because there's so much to get through. And I'm not reading for so long. And I especially want to get to when he meets Śrīla Prabhupada. So, Ashtaprahar Kirtan. Every evening at the house of Brajabandhu's maternal uncle, many devotees would come and would have Sankirtan. And sometimes they would have Ashtaprahar Sankirtan, all-night Kirtan. Ashtaprahar literally means 24 hours. So Ashtaprahar Sankirtan is Kirtan for a 24-hour period. There are 8 prahars, so 3-hour periods in 24 hours. Balikuda, Katikata, and Alabol are villages close to Gadaigiri. Whenever there was Ashtaprahar Sankirtan in a nearby village, Brajabandhu was permitted to join them, provided that village was 1 to 3 kilometers from Gadaigiri. Otherwise, he was not allowed to go because he had... because he had to go to school the next morning. If the kirtan party went further away, however, Brajabandhu would always find a way of sneaking out without his uncle's knowledge. As soon as his uncles and the kirtan party left Gadaigiri for the evening, Brajabandhu would wait some time and then secretly slip away, fearlessly making his way through the jungle areas to the village where the kirtan was going on, and unnoticed by his uncle, he would join in. Then, in amongst the kirtan, his uncle, surprised to see Brajabandhu, would chastise him. "How did you get here?" he asked. Brajabandhu would answer that he wanted to be a part of the kirtan, adding, "Gopalju is protecting me." Ghanasham Giri. He, Brajabandhu, would always say that he was not afraid of going through the jungle by himself to meet up with his uncles in the Ashtaprahar Sankirtan, because he was always meditating on Gopal and that he always felt Gopal's protection. When his uncle asked him, "How will you do your studies if you are here?" Brajabandhu would answer, "I will finish everything very quickly and I will do it nicely." Then, by 3:30 or 4 o'clock a.m., when the all-night kirtan was over, he would notice that Brajabandhu had already gone. On such evenings, when Brajabandhu walked the long journey home, instead of going to sleep, he would take out his books and study. Then, without any sleep, he would go to school. For the time that he lived in Gadaigiri, his practice was to rise before 4 o'clock in the morning. He would usually sleep very little because his uncle, a businessman, came home from work very late in the evening, and then they would take prasad. This is interesting. Anyways, I'm going to... Okay. This is something that's interesting. In all villages in Orissa, they always have, I guess it's called the Bhagavat Tungi. I've seen it because I lived in Puri for 6 years, and so sometimes we'd go on village preaching, and yeah, they would have a little place. The shrine of the Bhagavatam. In every village in Orissa, sorry, 1 second, I think I'm going to get a private message right now, so probably people shouldn't see that. Do not disturb. Okay. In every village in Orissa, traditionally there is a Bhagavat Tungi, a small room where the Bhagavatam is kept and read aloud every evening by the village Brahmins. In the past, most of the members of a village would come and listen, but nowadays the recitation of the Bhagavatam has been replaced by radio and television. Srila Gurudev would often reflect on his own life, saying, "As soon as I heard the alphabet, I began to read the Bhagavatam. In those days there was no electricity, so I used a castor oil lamp and read Bhagavatam at the Bhagavat Tungi. Every evening he recited the Bhagavatam, which was the custom. The book was made from palm leaf and worshipped by the local Brahman. Every evening 1 chapter must be read." Bhagavat Tungis are also called Bhagavat Kutirs, special cottages where one would go to recite scripture and pray honor to the scripture. When he was young, he would read every day, as of our beloved Gurudev. The most important point was when I moved to Gadagiri, it was very concentrated, Krishna consciousness. That is most important. When Brajabandhu was in year 9 at school, he was 13 years old. One day his auntie suggested that he go to an opera performance with his brother. He was so upset that he closed the door and cried for a long time. He was against anything that did not have a religious theme. When he finally came out of the room, he said, "My father is a poor man, and I am not a lazy person. I am worshipping Lord Gopal and reading the scriptures. It is life." According to his cousin sister Dobani Devi, he never went to see a movie or drama performance unless it had a religious theme. All right. Okay, let's just read this. Sankirtan and Puja. Brajabandhu would rise at 4 o'clock a.m., brush his teeth, bathe under the water pump outside in the fields, and then go immediately to see Shishi Radha Gopalju and the little thatched temple. At this time, his bhajan consisted of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and doing whatever service he could for their lordships. Then he would take prasad. He would eat only what was offered to the deities. After taking prasad, he went to school. Because he had little or no taste for learning mundane subjects, this was the part of the day he relished least. As soon as school was over, without lingering to play with the other children, he would quickly return home, with wash his face, hands, and feet, and return to the temple to see the deities. Brajabandhu would then join his uncles in the regular evening kirtan in the temple. When the kirtan was over, he dutifully attempted to complete his homework and then went to bed. Śrīla Gour Govinda Swami. My boyhood days were spent there at Gadagiri, chanting, doing Sankirtan, and also studying at the high school for the secondary school course. But I was too negligent in my studies. I spent more time in Nam Sankirtan. Out of every month, I would spend 3 weeks or less at school. I was not so attentive to study. I was hopeless because I had not studied, but miraculously, I came out successful in the final examinations. Dobani Devi. From the beginning, he first came to Gadagiri to attend high school. I saw how he would anoint the deities' bodies with sandalwood paste and offer arati to them. He would assist in any way whatsoever with the deity worship. He was completely absorbed in the deities and anything to do with the deities in the temple. Attachment to the Shastra. Whenever there was kirtan or a bhajan program organized in a neighbor's house or a nearby village, Brajabandhu would attend with his uncles as they led the kirtan through Gadagiri and neighboring villages. Much to people's amazement, at the end of the kirtan, young Brajabandhu would mingle with the people, and he was very fond of discussing Krishna Katha. The villagers, including the members of his family, remember how young Brajabandhu was very polite, always calm and peaceful, and that he had a very quiet nature. His cousin brother Ganesham Giri said, Brajabandhu could not do anything wrong. Brajabandhu's mother Patta Devi was a very serious woman who relished listening to shastras such as Mahabharata and the Bhagavad Gita. When her brother Gopinath Giri would come to her house, she would always ask him to recite the Mahabharata. Once, in the rainy season, the Mahabharata was being recited before the Gopal deity. At that time, Brajabandhu's mother had stayed for 2 months in Gadagiri to hear the Mahabharata continuously. This happened when Brajabandhu was studying at Gadagiri, and he suggested to his mother that she should go back to their home because his father and the other family members might need her. His mother avoided his arguments and said that she would return to home only after the recitation of the Mahabharata was completed. She was very devoted to the scriptures, and every time she had a chance, she would sit and listen to their recitation. Brajabandhu was very pleased with his mother because she could remember everything that she heard from the recitation of different shastras, and she would explain their meanings. According to all at Gadagiri, Brajabandhu was very much like his mother. Okay, I am going to skip some parts because I want to make it to I want to make it till when he meets Śrīla Prabhupada. What time is it? 7:45. Okay, I'm going to just skip, even though I want to read all of this. I want to read this whole book, but I just... Okay, we're skipping his marriage and family life and his teaching, preaching at home. Krishna conscious family life. I'm just skipping all of this because... Okay. What's this? Okay, this is interesting. Gopinath Giri leaves this world. On Friday, 24 February 1967, the appearance day of Śrīla Narottam Das Thakur, the uncle of Brajabandhu, Gopinath Giri, who was a great kirtaniya, drummer and devotee, left this world amidst a tumultuous kirtan. As has been described in chapter 5 of this book, Gopinath Giri, the mridanga player, was a wonderful dancer. When he played the mridanga, he made it sound like thunder. It was stated, such mridanga players are not to be found in these days. Oh wait, okay. A divine call for sannyas. In 1969, Brajabandhu revealed the following dream to a close friend. This prompted him to consider giving up family life, but it did not eventuate. Fakir Charan Konungo. Don't know how you say that. Anyways, let me see if the internet's still working. It looks like it. Okay, cool. He revealed his dream to me that he had a few nights ago. He said that he was flying in the sky without any vehicle and collecting scented flowers in the garden. This type of dream gives future information about the beginning of a new life and the end of the present life. He said that he was surprised that he had this type of dream. Then he said he saw the incident of Prince Siddhartha before becoming the Buddha. While Prince Siddhartha was on his chariot, he found a poor, weak old man who was previously a handsome young man. But now he had become a useless, neglected old man. The situation would come one day to each of us. Another time, the prince saw a diseased person. By this, he could understand that his body is a house of disease and that all of us have to deal with that one day. Then he saw one dead man. By this, he could understand that everyone is under the clutches of death. At last, he saw one sannyasi and concluded that this samskar is temporary and full of distress. This man has rejected the unreal life and accepted the life of renunciation, sannyas, for the search of the ultimate goal of life. Fakir Charan says, he said to me, while I saw all these amazing events in my dream, someone was whispering in my ear, you must accept the sannyas order of life. Renounced life means the power to human beings to meet the Supreme Lord Madhav. I'm feeling some invisible power guiding me towards the path of renunciation, and therefore I should not delay. I must leave this so-called family life and accept the renounced order of life. This dream is the divine call for sannyas. I feel that someone is telling me to leave my house and come quickly, not to fear. Jewels may be found only by hard labor. Without strings, the veena cannot be played, and without the wheel, the vehicle cannot move, and without faith and devotion or nishta, life's chariot cannot move. Brajabandhu began to feel the need to renounce family life and take sannyas to preach the mission of Mahaprabhu, and he heard the call for him to do this. Of course, for this he needed to seek out and find a bona fide spiritual master. He did not want to teach mundane subjects anymore. He wanted to teach the Gita, the Bhagavatam, and the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then, one day, before his beloved deity, Gopalju, he entrusted his 7 children, 4 sons and 3 daughters, to his brother Kripa Sindhu Manik, saying, these are all your children. This is your family. Please take charge of it. He then expressed his desire to give up this grihastha ashram life and take up sannyas to teach the path of bhakti. But his brother was reluctant to accept the responsibility, so Brajabandhu was still encumbered by householder life. I will take sannyas. When Brajabandhu was teaching, he would speak about taking sannyas. The following took place in 1971. When he was teaching English, he would also present Krishna Katha, wherein he mentioned, from time to time, that he wanted to take sannyas. One topic in English was a story called River Stairs, which was from the book Tales from Tagore, written by the Nobel Prize winner of Rabindranath Tagore. Brajabandhu liked this particular story because he was very fond of sannyas life, and the story was about a member of the Goswami Hari Parivar family who had taken sannyas. He had formerly been the husband of Kusuma, who is now without a husband. She had no other alternative than to return to the house of her father. By talking about Kusum and her husband and the activities of a sannyasi, Brajabandhu was preparing himself for the sannyas ashram, and he told his students, "One day I will leave this job and take sannyas." Oh wow, we haven't made it very far through the book at all. Sorry guys, I'm just... Oh, is that his wife? I guess so. I guess that was his wife, Vasanti Devi. That's the house of Brajabandhu Manik in Jagannathpur. Such a simple hut, huh? Beautiful. And this is the house of Brajabandhu Manik in Jagannathpur. Look at that. So simple, oh my god. I want to go there for darshan sometime. I missed my chance a couple times at Puri. There's the Gadagiri temple. Oh, it's so sweet. And there's the inside of the temple. So simple and sweet. Look at Jagannath there. Alright. Oh, and there's Sri Gopal Ju. Jai Ho, Jai Gopal Ju. We didn't read anything about Gopal Ju, but yeah, the whole... Wow. Jai Sri Gopal Ju ki Jai. Alright, so Gadagiri Kirtaniyas. Alright, I'm just skipping through. Look, there's Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada. Oh, that's him, huh? That's Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj? My god, he's so skinny. Wow. Okay. See, look how skinny he is. Alright. Okay, so 1973. Preaching is superior to material life. I'm just going to skip ahead. I want to get to where he meets Srila Prabhupada. Okay, here it is. What's this? Gaur Gopalananda Das meets Srila Prabhupada. When does he become Gaur Gopalananda Das? That's interesting. Okay, I'm just going to read from here. I want to see how he got the name Gaur Gopalananda. Anyways, whatever. Anyways, I'm just going to skip this. Okay, let's hear about his meeting Srila Prabhupada. Now, Sri Gaur Gopalananda's life was solely dedicated to finding a bona fide guru, asking everyone he met, "Is there a sadhu here or a sannyasi?" He was constantly inquiring, looking for a pure devotee. But pure devotees are very rare. Hari Bhakti Sadurlabha. Durlabha Eka Kṛṣṇa Bhakta. Durlabha Sadguru Devi. He traveled throughout India from the Himalayas to Cape Comorin, Kanyakumari. It was not an easy task. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami. I was born in Orissa in a Vaishnava family. There are many Vaishnavas here, and so many mats of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami. From my childhood, I was attracted to Mahaprabhu, and from an early age, I was performing Sankirtan and worshipping Radha and Kṛṣṇa deities. In my family, we were reading the Bhagavatam, but I had to search out a bona fide guru. I wandered from the Himalayas to Kanyakumari, throughout the whole of India. Although I met many Vaishnavas, I was not as yet satisfied. Is my internet working? It says no connection. Let me just check. Oh, it looks like there's still people there, so I think it's still working. Okay, so the search for the bona fide guru. 2 gamshas, 1 stick, 1 danda, and a begging bowl was all I had. Whoa! I kept moving, walking, even at night, any time. Sometimes I slept on the railway platform where the beggars were sleeping. Sometimes I spent the night underneath a tree, and sometimes on the side of the Grand Trunk Road. I would wake up early in the morning, go to the river, pass stool, take bath, and then move on, and just inquire, "Are there any temples here? Are there any sadhus here?" Sri Gaur Gopalananda walked from Gadagiri to Cuttack, a distance of 62 kilometers, and from Cuttack he made his way to Haridwar, a distance of 1,797 kilometers. All by foot, huh? When he saw a temple or an ashram on his way, he would always inquire if there were any sadhus or sannyasis there, and what their philosophy was. Sri Gaur Gopalananda Das lived as a Goswami with no fixed residence. The tortoise, as soon as he likes, he discloses his senses, and then when he likes, he pulls them within. That is the position of a pure devotee. He can wind up the senses whenever he likes, and he can exhibit the senses whenever he likes. The senses are under his control. He is not under the control of the senses, as are the ordinary persons. That is the meaning of Goswami. Is that from 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, I'm guessing. How does that verse go? Kurmanganiva sarvasha. Forgot how it goes though. Anyways. A meeting place between the earth and the heavens. Haridwar and Rishikesh are in the foothills of the Himalayas, a beautiful, idyllic scene as the Ganges River rushes by. Everything is lush and green. Haridwar is approximately 30 kilometers from Rishikesh. In India, that is at least a 1-hour bus ride. Haridwar is more in the plains and Rishikesh is in the foothills of the Himalayas. Many sadhus live by the banks of the river Ganges. Behind these 2 towns, full of sadhus, is the backdrop of the Himalayas, a meeting place between the earth and the heavens. Gaur Gopalananda definitely thought, this is the place to meet a real sadhu. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami. I was looking for that person who could give me the sannyas order of life. There were many sadhus in that area, Haridwar and Rishikesh, so naturally I thought that I would find a suitable person there to give me sannyas. Because of his association with the Shivananda Ashram, the Divine Life Society, and his householder life, he went to their ashram first. He had previously seen men being awarded the order of sannyas there, so he thought he could also take sannyas there. The members of the Divine Life Society were mainly yogis. They practiced hatha yoga, asanas, pranayama, and meditation. Shivananda Swami, its founder, had already left this world, and his successor, Chidananda Saraswati Swami, this is the person Gaur Gopalananda approached. I don't know how long this section is. Sorry guys, I'm going to skip ahead because... Okay. I'm just going to read this. One day, Gour Gopalananda, is that his name? Gour Gopalananda. He came upon, he came upon a Babaji who had built for himself a very small cottage in a nearby jungle in order to distance himself from the rest of the inhabitants in the area and carry on quietly with his bhajan. He was chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. As Gour Gopalananda also chanted Hare Krishna, the Babaji allowed him to stay in a small ashram. Srila Gour Govinda Swami. So I stayed in a solitary place in that Himalayan jungle in a very humble cottage. There was one very old sadhu, a Babaji, who lived there. I stayed with him and just went out and begged for food. There were so many sadhus living in that area, and every day in the morning at 9 o'clock, they would come out of their caves or little cottages to obtain food. Many rich men had made arrangements to feed them. They would supply each with a few pieces of bread and some sabji or dal each day. As I was doing the same thing, there was no difficulty in obtaining food offered by materialistic persons. The yogis in Haridwar and Rishikesh are fed daily by the rich people. This is called bandhara. That means a feast. They line up with their plates or begging bowls to receive food. The rich people feel that they will accrue some benefits by feeding them. It is a pious act to feed anyone, but more sukriti is accrued when feeding sadhus, real sadhus. Gour Gopalananda would also queue up for this bandhara. There were many places where they could receive this bandhara. Bandhara just means feast. Once a so-called sadhu had 4 or 5 plates and received he received bandhara in 4 or 5 different places. He did not control his senses and felt that 1 plate of food was not enough for him. Srila Gour Govinda Swami. These so-called yogis and sadhus were there only to fill their bellies. So one day in Rishikesh, after collecting bandhara, which I could keep in honor at midday, I went back to my bhajan kutir, but I was not able to do my bhajan properly. My mind was going hither and thither, and my chanting was disturbed. Then I remembered this verse from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Vishayara anakaile malin hoy man, malin man hoyle nahe Krishna rasmaran. When one eats food offered by a materialistic man, one's mind becomes contaminated, and when the mind is contaminated, one is unable to think of Krishna properly. Understanding that this disturbance was due to his acceptance of the bandhara from materialistic persons, he slapped himself in the face many times for having forgotten that important principle and made a vow that from that day he would not make this mistake again. Gour Gopalananda had gone to this region to find a bona fide guru. However, he had not found one to whom he could surrender his life and soul. Although he had made so many inquiries, it had been to no avail. As he was wondering what to do to meet a real sadhu guru, he thought that he had always prayed to Krishna throughout his entire life, and that the land of Krishna is Sri Vrindavan Dham. He then thought, there, in that divine place, Krishna will extend his mercy to me. So he turned his sights towards Vrindavan, the land of Krishna. Gour Gopalananda sets out for Sri Vrindavan. Srila Gour Govinda Goswami Maharaj. At last, I thought to go to Vrindavan. Lord Krishna would help me find a bona fide spiritual master there. In this mood, I left the Haridwar Rishikesh region and headed for the holy land of Sri Vrindavan Dham. My last hope was Vrindavan, which is the very dear place of Lord Krishna. I developed the strong faith that Krishna would shower his blessing on me in Vrindavan, and that I would be able to find my spiritual master there. Thus, Gour Gopalananda left for Vrindavan after spending a few unsatisfying months in the Himalayan region. In his travels, he had visited other places such as Ayodhya, Delhi, and Varanasi. He traveled sometimes by train and sometimes on foot, walking while chanting Hare Krishna. At the train stations, he would wait for the ticket collectors to walk by and ask, "I am a wandering sadhu. Could you please give me some money to purchase a ticket? I want to go to this place." The ticket collectors would look at him and allow him to go on without a ticket. Gaur Gopalananda had some spiritual discussions during his visit to Varanasi, but they were not at all satisfying. In Ayodhya, where they sing the glories of Lord Ram from the most famous Ramayana of Tulsidas, very few people knew the Srimad Bhagavatam, but no one knew about the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. He did not feel content there either. He had met so many sadhus and sannyasis, visited so many temples and ashrams, but his heart's desire remained unfulfilled. In his own words, "I was not really satisfied until I reached Vrindavan." Gaur Gopalananda thus meets Śrīla Prabhupada. Okay. One second. Okay, it's all looking good. Haribol Sukadev Mataji. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami. In Vrindavan, I was moving around. I spent one day in one mat just observing what was going on, who was there, and if there were any sadhu Vaishnavas. In this way, I was spending one day in one mat and another day in another mat. There are so many mats, mandirs in Vrindavan, so many. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, presenting the following shloka composed by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I offered my obeisances at the feet of all the readers. Aradhya Bhagavan Rajeshatanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachirupasana Vrajavadu Vargena Ya Kalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumarta Mahan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhur Matamidam Tatra Dharo Nahpara. I'm going to skip. Gaur Gopalananda Das spent 3 to 4 days in one mat, but because his head was completely shaved, he was asked to leave because they thought he was an impersonalist. There was a second incident also in which he was considered an impersonalist, again because he was completely shaved, because of his completely shaved head. As we will see as we read on. He completely shaved his head as a sign of total renunciation from everything. He had freed himself from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest. He did not even have a fixed place of residence. He was just wandering, looking for the sadhu that would give him sannyas, as has been quoted many times in this publication, so that he could preach the mission of Prem Purushottam Shri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Then, one day as he was passing through the Ramanareti area, in front of a large compound, he saw a large sign which read, International Society for Kṛṣṇa Consciousness, Founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. When he saw this, he thought, what is this, an international society? Let me go and see what it is. It was the construction site of a temple that had not yet been built. It was just at the beginning stages. Only the foundation was laid, and there were a few thatched cottages where some devotees, including a few Westerners, were living. The only completed house there was the one where the founder Acharya was living. Okay, I think we all know what the International Society for Kṛṣṇa Consciousness is, so I'm going to skip that. After successfully preaching and establishing many temples in the Western countries, Śrīla Prabhupada took some of his Western disciples to India and began opening temples there. Gaur Gopalananda noticed immediately that the devotees had shaved heads with shika. They wore kantimala around their necks and chanted on japamala. All these symbols of Vaishnavism, as he had grown up in these surroundings. Most of them wore saffron cloth, and when he entered the compound, one Western devotee gave him a Back to Godhead magazine. He looked over the pages and found what he'd been searching for, Srimad Bhagavatam, Kṛṣṇa and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As he read through the Back to Godhead magazine, Gaur Gopalananda felt that his prayers had been answered. Kṛṣṇa had led him to the right place. Okay, I'm just skipping all that. Okay, the darshan of a Mahatma is good fortune. Shri Gorgonanda asked, "Where is the founder Acharya? Is he here?" Fortunately, Srila Prabhupada was in. He asked, "Can I meet him?" He was told, "First meet the secretary." The secretary at that time was Brahmananda Swami. He would sit in the front room and Srila Prabhupada was in the next room. So first he had to meet the secretary, and then, with the secretary's permission, he would be allowed to meet Srila Prabhupada. Otherwise, he could not meet him. So he went there, he paid his obeisances and said, "Swamiji, will you please make some arrangements so that I may meet the founder Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami?" The secretary then asked him, "What for?" Gaur Gopalananda said, "I want to have darshan and a few words with such a great Mahatma. If I meet him, some good fortune may come to me. The darshan of a Mahatma is available because of good fortune. Otherwise, no one could meet such a Mahatma. If good fortune comes to you, you can meet such a Mahatma. So if a Mahatma is available, why should I depart without seeing him? Please help me. I just want to meet and talk with him and to hear something from him. Yes, I have some questions I want to ask him. Will you please kindly make some arrangements so that I may meet him?" He paid his dandavats repeatedly and said, "Please help me. Please help me." He is wearing saffron-colored clothing, looking like a wandering sadhu. The secretary thought that perhaps he might really be a sadhu. It was midday, and Srila Prabhupada had just taken his lunch. He was sitting alone in his room, reclining in his chair. Brahmananda Swami went in and said to Srila Prabhupada, "This sadhu has come and wants to meet you." Srimad Gaur Govinda Swami many years later said, "It was the Paramatma's prompting, Krishna's arrangement." Immediately, Srila Prabhupada said, "Allow him to come in." When Gaur Gopalananda entered the room, he saw Srila Prabhupada sitting by himself in a chair. Brahmananda Swami went back to the front room. Gaur Gopalananda, a disheveled sadhu, introduced himself. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami: "All that time, I had been looking for a real guru, a sadhu guru, to take sannyas from and then preach. When I saw Srila Prabhupada for the first time, I paid my obeisances flat on the ground like a stick. And from that first sight, that first darshan, I could understand that this Mahatma truly was a Paramahamsa, a Mahabhagavat. He really was the representative of Mahaprabhu. I could feel it. It was my heart's natural attraction. He just looked at me and asked, 'Have you taken sannyas?' And I answered, 'No.' Then he said, 'I will give you sannyas.' That was the first thing he said. From his side, he said so. I immediately surrendered because I knew that he was in my heart. So I understood, he is my guru. Yes, he knows my heart. Really, he is the Chaita Guru who is in the heart. I had left my home with that purpose. It is by his mercy only, causeless mercy. Yes, Prabhupada is just giving mercy. You just have to catch it. It is like hanging ropes that you have to catch hold of." It's beautiful. Understanding that Srila Prabhupada knew his heart, Gaur Gopalananda Das surrendered himself at Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. Thus the Sadguru and the Sat Shishya met by the order of the transcendental system in that most auspicious place, Sri Vrindavan Dham. Sunday, 15 September 1974 at midday. Oh man, it's getting late. I've already been reading for an hour. I wanted to finish at 8 o'clock. This is so good though, I don't want to stop. Okay, I'm going to just read a little bit. This is Krishna's arrangement. Shri Gaur Gopalananda thought, "He knows my heart. I am searching for a sadhu, a Vaishnav sannyasi, from whom I will take shelter and sannyas. He has said, 'I will give you sannyas.'" Gaur Gopalananda immediately knew, "Oh, it is the Paramatma's prompting. That for which I am looking is now here. Yes, I found it now. I have it now. This is Krishna's arrangement." The transcendental system. Both Srila Prabhupada and our beloved Gurudev were born in Vaishnava families, and by the Lord's arrangement, they met in Sri Vrindavan Dham. Okay, I'm going to skip this commentary. Okay. Okay. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami. How can we find our Guru? He will speak about your inner desires. At first sight, I was greatly attracted to Srila Prabhupada, and he knew my heart. Then and there, I surrendered. The day was Sunday, 15 September, 1974 at midday. Sri Gaur Gopalananda left home with the intention to take sannyas from a bona fide person, a Sadguru, to whom he would surrender and who would give him sannyas. The object of his lifelong yearning had now been located, and his heart desire was about to be fulfilled. Srila Gaur Govinda Swami. I said, I surrender. I want shelter. Please give me shelter. And Prabhupada said, all right, you may stay here. Also in a discussion with his disciples, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada on 5th January 1977 in Bombay, prior to going to the Kumbh Mela, stated, Srila Prabhupada said, Kṛṣṇa sent him. He, in Vrindavan, he said that, please give me shelter. I thought that, there are so many Indian who want to come and go. So when he insisted, I said, all right, you stay. Gunarnava Das was one of the devotees residing in one of the huts at the ISKCON compound, assisting Srila Prabhupada in building of the Sri Kṛṣṇa Balaram temple. And he says, when Srila Prabhupada and Gaur Govinda Maharaj met, it was as though they had already known each other. It was as though they already knew each other. But that was not possible, as they never had met prior to the first meeting in Vrindavan on the ISKCON land. After they met, we basically lost Srila Prabhupada's association, as it seems that he wanted just to associate with Gaur Govinda Swami, and of course, vice versa. Gaur Govinda Swami saw Srila Prabhupada as the real thing immediately. Nowhere to stay. At that time, the temple president was Guru Das. He did not allow Gaur Gopalananda Das to sleep on the compound, although Gaur Gopalananda tried to explain to him that Srila Prabhupada had said he could. Close by was a small ashram. Gaur Gopalananda went there and spent the night. Early the next morning at 3 a.m., he awoke, took his bath, and went to the ISKCON compound for Mangalarti. Then Gaur Gopalananda Das explained his predicaments to Srila Prabhupada, who told him, thieves entered the compound previously and stole building materials and other items. That is why the management is doing this. Do not take it personally and be patient. The management were wary of newcomers only because of the thefts that had taken place recently. After that, Srila Prabhupada spoke to the managers and said, allow him to sleep here. Oh man, I need to stop soon. I'm already going way over time. Okay, I'm just gonna read this. Oh, so sweet feast today. At that time, Gaur Gopalananda was performing a variety of services. He was cleaning the toilets, cleaning the pots, and very large pots too, he commented, cooking chapatis, and cooking for the devotees. He would also carry big buckets of water. When Gaur Gopalananda had cooked for the devotees, they would say, oh, so sweet feast today. Who has cooked? This impersonal sannyasi has cooked, was the answer. Oh, so sweet today. How sweet. We have never tasted anything like that. Every day they would say like this. Every day they would say this. Gaur Gopalananda was dressed as a sadhu. He had a completely shaved head, no shika. Therefore the devotees thought he was a Mayavadi sannyasi, an impersonalist. They did not have any idea of his great Vaishnava background. All they knew was that when he cooked, they would experience a wonderfully sweet flavor. Many years later, Srila Gaur Govinda Swami reminisced and said, They thought I was an impersonalist sannyasi. He'd smile and then laugh. After about a week, Gaura Gopalananda changed into a dhoti and kurta and began to grow a shika, but he did not tell anyone of his great Vaishnava background. He said nothing. He just wanted to serve. Many thought that Srila Prabhupada had converted this impersonalist into a Vaishnava, and Gaura Gopalananda did not try to change their opinion. He had nothing. He had found his spiritual master and was only interested in serving him. What others thought of him was of no interest to him. Okay, so Patit Pavan Prabhu says, it might have always been the always blissful English brahmachari, Gunarnava, or maybe the philosophical Scottish devotee, Smarahari, who approached me with the news. Hey Patit, he called, a sadhu just asked Srila Prabhupada for initiation. Wow, good luck to that, Maharaj, I chuckled pessimistically. After all, we had both been Prabhupada's disciples for a number of years, and had been in India long enough to know that most of sadhus preferred to keep their distance from us foreign bhaktas. As events would unfold, the sadhu had approached Srila Prabhupada, who would soon become Srila Gaur Govinda Swami. Sorry, whatever. Okay, I'm skipping that. The Hindi translations begin. In Vrindavan, Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj is saying, in Vrindavan, he first told me to translate his books in Hindi. At that time, I was speaking Hindi because I had spent much time in the Himalayas where the people were speaking Hindi. When Prabhupada said, well, you are speaking nice Hindi, can you write my books in Hindi? I said, yes, Prabhupada. My mother tongue is not Hindi, still I must write. He ordered Brahmananda, give him one book, give him a pencil, paper, let him translate in Hindi. I was first translating in Hindi and also teaching his disciples Hindi in Vrindavan. I was giving Hindi lessons in Mayapur also. Prabhupada told me to do that. Then when I came, he ordered me to translate the books in Oriya. Stay here, do this project, translate my books, publish them, and preach. Like that. That was his latest words to me. I am doing that. Okay, it's repeating the same thing. Srila Prabhupada said, I will give you everything that you need, a room, pen and paper, desk and lamp, whatever you need. Now you translate my books into Hindi. Gaur Govinda Swami. So I was provided a special room and everything, whereas the other devotees were not provided with a room because there were no rooms, just huts. So some of them became envious. Who is this person? He just came and was provided with a room? Anyhow, it was Prabhupada's mercy. I started my translation in Hindi. I translated the book Perfection of Yoga into Hindi. It has already been printed in Hindi. Then the local devotees protested. What is this? A room is available for him and we cannot get a room? Srila Gurudev said in regard to this, it is always there. I tolerated everything. So miraculous, so wonderful. It was all Prabhupada's mercy. Oh God, I have to stop. Sorry guys. Oh man. Anyways, I'm just gonna keep on reading if I don't force myself. Anyhow, you can get the link. If you want to keep on reading from this, actually I'll put the link in the discussion. In the comments, sorry. Here's the link to the book, and I will send this part 2 also. That's book 1, and here's book 2. Oops. Alright, here's book 2. Alright, so if you look in the comments, you'll see it there. Alright, thank you so much for reading with me. I am way over time. I was meant to stop at 8 o'clock, and it's 8:25. So, thank you so much for reading with me. Jai Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai, Shri Gopal Ju Ki Jai, Shri Radha Gopal Ju Ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Madan Mohan Ju ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gour Govinda Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Tadya Shubha Avirbhav Titi ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Swapashachi Gaur Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Vo. Vrindaya Tulsi Vanchakalpatarubhishta Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat pranams. So yeah, you see, look in the comments and you'll see the link for the two books that I'm reading from. Alright, Haribol.